So video to our monitors takes us to protests in South Korea.
The atmosphere, peaceful yet passionate. But these protests, they're anything but ordinary.
South Korea is an economic powerhouse, a very modern country. South Korean democracy, which we have been praising for so many decades. This is, again, a very modern country, a highly developed country. This is a highly civilized and modern people.
안녕하세요, 원다입니다.
놀랍도록 창의적이고 열정적이다. 신기할 정도로 평화롭고 질서정연하다. 한국인들의 시위 모습이 연일 주요 외신들을 통해 보도되며 세계인들의 시선을 집중시키고 있습니다. 주요 외신들은 한국인들의 시위 현장을 보도하며 감탄과 찬사를 쏟아내고 있는데요. 축제 같은 북적임을 보여주면서도 결코 가볍지 않고 화려한 디스플레이를 보여주면서도 명확히 메시지를 전달하며 모든 이들을 하나로 묶는 천재적인 한국인들의 시위 문화가 차세대형 민주주의를 창조하고 있다고 강조합니다. 게다가 시위에 참석하지 못한 이들이 시위 참석자들을 위해 카페 등에 선결제를 해놓는 등 든든한 지지와 놀랍도록 끈끈한 연대를 보여주는 한국인들의 모습은 세계인들을 감동에 빠뜨리기에 충분했는데요. 세계인들은 이런 충격적인 사태에서조차 끊임없이 감동적인 모습을 창조해내는 한국인들을 보며 그저 경이로울 따름이라는 반응을 보이고 있습니다.
So video to our monitors takes us to protests in South Korea.
South Koreans brought a festival atmosphere to the streets of Seoul.
Over the last few days, the streets of Seoul have resembled its concert arenas. Customized light sticks popular with fans of K-pop are commonplace among demonstrators. Their chants and light stick choreography to get people riled up have gone viral on social media.
The people you're about to see want the Korean president impeached after he declared martial law last week, shocking a lot of people all around the world. They are determined to find a new way forward on the Korean peninsula.
Protests were sweeping the nation as citizens demanded the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol after his shocking declaration of martial law. On 7 December, a massive crowd of over 1 million gathered outside the National Assembly, demanding action. The atmosphere, peaceful yet passionate. But these protests, they're anything but ordinary. Anything but ordinary.
Colourful light sticks, seen mostly in K-pop concerts, pack the plaza in front of the National Assembly.
This movement, powered by the MZ generation millennials and Gen Z, is turning demonstrations into vibrant, concert-like events. Colorful K-pop fandom light sticks, sing-alongs to K-pop hits like Blackpink Rose's APT, aespa's Whiplash, G-Dragon's Crooked, and 2NE1's I Am the Best. One unforgettable moment. Protesters singing Into the New World by Girls' Generation outside the National Assembly. This 2007 K-pop anthem, originally about hope and moving forward, became a powerful symbol of resistance. Protesters aren't just chanting, they're dancing, waving witty flags, and even remixing Christmas carols. And let's talk about creativity. Many groups carried flags with quirky, humorous names to stand out in the crowd, adding a unique flair to this tradition.
Banners from unique groups like the so-called Couch Potato Alliance are also spotted at the protest. A new culture emerges with distinct individuality at the protest site.
And the unity doesn't stop there. Supporters are prepaying for meals and coffee at local shops to keep their fellow demonstrators energized.
Protesters order drinks at a cafe, but they don't pay for them. Somebody had already paid in advance. Those who paid in advance shared messages of support along with the cafe name and the number of drinks purchased on social media.
A powerful display of solidarity. display of solidarity.
And South Korea's democracy has existed since 1987, born out of repressive authoritarian governments who used martial law themselves. And that's why so many South Koreans were so enraged, because the president's own martial law declaration brought up horrors of the past. This political K-drama, if you will, could last weeks, months, and possibly even years.
South Koreans are proving once again that their voices won't be silenced.
이렇게 세계인들을 놀라고 감동케 하는 한국인들의 모습은 충격적인 사태가 벌어졌을 그 당시부터 시작됐는데요. 세계 언론들은 위기 속에서 모두가 한마음 한뜻으로 단결하여 위기 사태를 해결해내는 한국인들의 모습을 상세하게 보도하며 감탄과 놀라움을 쏟아냈습니다. 특히 한 전문가는 매우 현대적이고 고도로 발전한 한국에서 80년대에서나 일어날 이런 어이없는 사태가 벌어졌을지라도 여전히 한국을 강력한 민주주의 국가라고 장담할 수 있는 이유가 바로 한국에는 매우 문명화되고 깨어있는 국민들이 있기 때문이라고 강조합니다.
We are following breaking news out of South Korea, where there's been a series of chaotic moves involving the country's government. Protesters flooded the streets of Seoul after the president declared martial law.
Can you explain what happened near midnight on Tuesday night?
Sure. Around 10:30 p.m., I just saw that there was just a lot of social media that in effect was saying that martial law had been called. And of course, all of us at the beginning were completely incredulous. Like, we would never imagine, some of us, the younger ones, that we would have martial law called during our lifetimes. Afterwards, a lot of the people went to the National Assembly themselves. So a lot of them went home, and after going home, they went directly to the National Assembly to gather and to protect the National Assembly from the military troops that were being dispatched. So martial law was called at 10:30 p.m. And basically between 11 and 12, thousands of people had gathered in front of the National Assembly. And I think what's extraordinary is that a lot of ordinary people came out. I think I've heard that people were saying that there were delivery people that just stopped working. And when they heard the news, they just rushed to the National Assembly. There were people that were at home just relaxing, and then they rushed. And a lot of the people, when they gathered, they were able to block and prevent the armored trucks from entering the grounds of the National Assembly. A lot of them were chanting to abolish the martial law. Yeah, basically abolish martial law and to down with the dictatorship. And a lot of this was happening while voting, while the deliberation was happening inside the National Assembly. And so, yeah, in many regards, I think the National Assembly members, the 190 that showed up, were the ones that revoked martial law. But of course, it was a lot of the energy and a lot of the effort and a lot of the presence of people that had rushed to the National Assembly that really made a huge difference in turning this thing around.
South Korea is an economic powerhouse, a very modern country. This is the first time in 44 years that we see martial law being declared in South Korea. South Korean democracy, which we have been praising for so many decades. I have been a student of the Korean Peninsula for 34 years now. South Korean democracy has been sent back to 1980, the last time martial law was declared. This is not 1980. This is not the year when the Gwangju uprising happened, when martial law was declared. This is, again, a very modern country, a highly developed country. The message that I would like to convey is that I think that South Korean democracy is still strong. This is a highly civilized and modern people.
또한 이번 사태에서 목격한 한국인들의 모습은 많은 부분에서 대단한 일이라며 이는 미국인들이 한국인들을 보고 배워야 할 아주 놀라운 사례라고 강조하죠.
This is not the first time South Korea has faced martial law. Wondering if you could remind our viewers and listeners about the martial law back in 1980 that led to the famous Gwangju uprising and the massacre of hundreds, possibly thousands of South Koreans.
Going back to the last declaration of martial law by Chen Duhuan, it actually, and which was actually backed and known by the U.S. Carter at the time had sent paramilitary troops, not American, but South Korean, from the DMZ to go and quash the uprising as citizens and students and farmers and workers rose up in protest of martial law and the dictatorship. And I think that experience, even though it was 44 years ago, it's still very much in the minds of the Korean people. And so when they heard that martial law was declared, people were saying, we have to go, we have to take to the streets, we have to protest, we cannot allow a return because of the horrific experience that South Koreans endured under dictatorship, the beatings, the torture. Korean-American journalist that many of your listeners probably read his work on, he is still suffering a twitch in his neck because of, he was beaten by a club and his skull was almost fractured. So that kind of still the memory, the living memory, the emotional, the psychological trauma of that period, South Koreans just will not stand that. They will not tolerate that. They will not tolerate that. And so I think in many ways, what we witnessed in the last day in the 24-hour period is extraordinary. It's an extraordinary example. It's an extraordinary example of what Americans must learn from South Korea about how people, ordinary people, it's not governments or the military that will secure our democracy. It will be people and people power. I think we have to take the lessons and learn from South Koreans that have been organizing under an authoritarian leaning government for the last several years. What we witnessed in that 6-hour period of a strong man declaring martial law, the reaction by the people and the other elected officials, including members of his own party, going and protesting and vetoing that martial law order. Imagine what would have happened on January 6th. If American people actually went as the MAGA people were rioting and raiding our halls of Congress, and if members of Congress and the people actually showed up and refuted and condemned this action, what difference that would have made, and the difference that 2025 would be for this country and for the world.